I'm going to start with today the Decay Quick Fix Priming Spray. I'm going to go straight in with the Too Faced Hangover X primer. So this is more of a moisturiser than a primer, but you can see as my face goes slightly redder, it's bringing all the blood to the surface, which then gives you an extra glow. I'm going to go straight into doing the brow, and I'm just going to take a mascara spoolie and brush right the way through to make sure there's no stray hairs anywhere. I'm going to use Anastasia Beverly Hills brow powder, and this is in dark brown. So I'm just going to use an angled brush and make a straight line around the front of the brow and keep brushing it through to blend it. I'm also just going to follow the natural shape of the brow in the lower half of it using the powder, and then slowly build my way to filling in the top. I'm going to keep brushing it all the way through as well. This is just to make sure that it's all blended and we don't have anything kind of slipping off the side of the brow. First, I'm going to start with this Makeup Forever Camouflage Concealer. I'm going to use a flat brush and I'm going to start to carve out the brow. I actually prefer more of a fluffy brow, so I'm not going to do it too sharp. But what this does is it kind of gives you a bit of a more of a defined brow, gets rid of any colour pigmentation on your eyelids, and also preps your eyelids for the eyeshadow. All I want to do is just go through the damp beauty blender just to make sure that everything is blended and sitting into the skin and not on top of the skin, because otherwise it's just going to slide off when you start to apply your shadow. I'm then also going to set it with some translucent powder, and what this does is prevents any creasing of the eyeshadow when you obviously open and close your eyes. The first eyeshadow colour I'm going to use is Max Nylon. This is a really great highlight colour. I'm just going to take what I would call a pencil brush, and I'm going to put it at the brow bone, at the very top of the brow, and on the inner corner of the tear duct as well. This is what highlights our eyes, makes them pop, and it's a really good colour as well. It suits every skin tone. The first shade that I'm going to use as my transition shade is Makeup Geek Bake Sale. So this is like a really warm tone shade. I really love Makeup Geek. I feel like the eyeshadow's got really good colour payoff, really good price, and good value for money. So the first colour that we put on is kind of like the first layer, and we're going to use that to blend all the colours in at the end. But it's great to transition from lighter to darker colours using this colour. So I'm going to place it onto the crease and blend into the outer crease, all the way along windshield wiper motions, just to make sure that there's no harsh edges. I'm also going to take a Zoeva buffer brush and just a clean buffer brush and just buff over the top of the colour, just to make sure again that there's no harsh lines and it blends right into the highlight. The second colour I'm going to use is another Makeup Geek shade, and this is Cocoa Bear. And this is like a deeper version of Bake Sale, which is what we've just put on. I'm only putting this on the outer corner and blending it into the inner crease. And this is what's going to deepen the eyes and give it a little bit more definition. If you start lighter and work your way to darker, it makes it much easier to get all the colours to blend. I'm using a MAC 217 brush, and this is a really classic matte brush that everybody needs. I'm also going to go back in with the Bake Sale, which was the transition colour, and the Zoeva Fluffy brush, and I'm just going to use it to blend all the colours together so that they all kind of melt into one another. Again, going back in with the buffer brush, and this is just going to melt all the colours together. I'm then going to take the Naked Heat palette. The colour that I'm using is this kind of like dark, deep purple. I'm going to use that again over the top of the Cocoa Bear with the same brush, just to deepen it again. The more you go on, the darker you want to make the outer corners. I'm just taking a clean fluffy brush with nothing on it, just melting all those colours into one another. Next I'm going to take a MAC paint pot, and this is the colour Groundwork, and this is just like a almost like a primer, so it's like an eyeshadow base, and it's in a bit of a browny shade, so you can pretty much put anything over the top of it. And next I'm going to go in with a pigment, so this is why I put this on first. So I put it on with a flat brush, and then I'm going to use a fluffier brush just to blend it through. I'm then going to take this Inglot Sparkling Dust, so this can be used anywhere. I've used it as a highlight, use it on the eyes, you can use it on your collarbones for a bit of highlight as well. I'm also just going to spray a flat brush with some fixing spray, and this is just going to help me to apply the pigment a lot more evenly and stop any fallout from going everywhere. So all I'm doing is just patting it on, pressing it, checking it, and just making sure that it's not spreading everywhere. I'm next going to go back in with the Decay Naked Heat palette in the colour Cayenne, and I'm going to use this just to blend the pigment into the other colours that we've done. So this is like a very orangey shade, and because we're going for a warm orangey look, this is just going to melt all the colours together, so you don't want any lines around the pigment to suggest that it's not been blended. I have individual Russian lashes. These are done by Layla Claire Lash and Brow Design at the Salon Clinic, and my next step, I'm going to take the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette, and I'm going to take the black shade out of it on an angled brush and make a lash line with it on my upper lash line. This is because I can't currently use any liquid liner or pencil liner or any kind of liner really without wrecking the lashes. So what this does, it gives you the definition of a lash line without having to remove any liquid liner, which is obviously quite difficult, and there's not many makeup removers without oiling that you can use to get off really. So I'm going to run that all along the way, both lash lines, and just give me a bit of definition, and then I'm also going to fill my waterline in with a black kohl pencil. Next I'm going to take this NYX Dose of Dew, and it's kind of like a glow stick. I'm going to push it all onto the skin first and then use my fingers just to rub it in, and you'll see it just gives you a little bit of a glow before you put your foundation on. I'm quite a fan of the dewy look, so if you're not into that, then you'd probably skip this step. I'm going to use my favourite foundation, and this is the Kat Von D Lock-It foundation. You'll be able to see it's quite a yellowy colour, but I've got quite yellowy skin, so it matches me really well. It might be slightly darker than my skin, but I'll blend it all through. You can see it totally covers up any blemishes or any redness. It is just the best foundation, so I'm going to put it absolutely everywhere, including my neck, just to make sure that it's all blended through. Sometimes I might apply my foundation with a beauty blender as well, depending on what kind of look I want to go for. If I'm using this foundation, I do need a bit more of a full coverage, so I will use a brush, but sometimes I like to use a beauty blender for not so much a natural coverage, because I never have a natural coverage, but maybe more of an airbrush kind of finish where it's a bit more dewy and a bit more glowy. But if I'm going out and I want it to last, I will put it on with a brush first, and then I'll push it into my skin with a beauty blender and make sure that it's all blended through. I'm going to do my concealer next, and this is the best concealer in the whole world. This is the Tarte Shape Tape. I really struggle to get hold of this without paying a fortune, but it is so worth it. I'm just going to place it in almost like triangles under the eye. I'm going to put a little bit down my nose, a little bit on my chin, and I'm going to use these points to highlight my face. I'm also going to put a little bit around my mouth because I feel like this is an area that can get dark on anyone. So if you put that little bit around your mouth, it just keeps that bright looking. I must also stress that your beauty blender must be damp. You'll only get the best effect from it if it is, otherwise you're just going to suck up all your product and you're not going to get much joy out of it. I'm just going to take the same concealer buffer brush I was using before by Zoeva, and I'm just going to blend the very kind of like close to my under eyes. This is because I don't want the beauty blender to spread anything anywhere. So I'm just going to do a little bit of both just to make sure that it's really blended in underneath my eyes. I'm now taking the Iconic palette with the same flat brush I used before, and I'm just placing this not directly under the eyes because we do have concealer under the eyes. This is just purely to highlight. So we want to be kind of bringing out the inner portion of our face. We tend to highlight the inner portion and contour the outer portion and the perimeter. So all this is going to do is just give us that little bit of brightness under the eyes, which is where you want it the most because that's where we all suffer from looking tired. And this product is not as thick as a normal concealer, but it will just give you that little bit extra brightness on the skin. Now I'm just going to use the RCMA No Colour powder. This is just a translucent powder, and what I'm doing now is called baking. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. You can do it really intensely and put a lot of it on and leave it on there for ages, which some people do, but I tend to just put it on for a few minutes, even a few seconds, push the rest of the powder into my skin without baking. I literally only bake under my eyes and on my contour because otherwise it can look too cakey and powdery. But luckily this powder is very light, and it's called No Colour for a reason because it literally has no colour in it. I'm going to start to contour now, and I'm just going to use the same Iconic palette and the darkest colour and just a bigger foundation brush, and I'm just going to literally run from the top of my ear to the corner of my mouth on my jawline and create more of a defined cheekbone. I'm also going to run a little bit of it on the top of my forehead as well, just to bring the perimeter of the face in and make everything look smaller. It doesn't have to be really neat on your forehead, and it doesn't have to be neat anywhere because it's all getting blended anyway. I'm going to use this Chanel cream bronzer, and I'm going to place my brush into that first and then use that product to blend in the contour on my skin that's there already, the product that's already there. The reason why we do this is it's not absolutely essential to use it because it's quite an expensive product, but it really does make it easier to blend in. And it's also got a really nice warm kind of tone to it. Again, makes the skin look really sun-kissed and really nice. The bronzer is actually lovely on its own as well, but sometimes I'm just not really a natural bronzer type, so I tend to like a full contour and highlight whenever I'm going anywhere. So I use the two products together just to get this kind of warm glow without it looking plasticky or harsh. I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills powder contour kit, and I'm going to just take a fluffy brush and just go over the top of the cream. This is because if we were to use the cream by itself, it's probably going to crease, it's probably going to move and slide down your face on a night out. Whereas if you put the powder over the top of it, just lightly, you don't have to use a lot of product, just lightly with a fluffy brush, it's just going to set it and make sure that it's not going anywhere or going out of place. I'm going to take some of the RCMA No Colour powder again, and on the same sponge I'm just going to press a little bit of it underneath the contour. Again, this is going to create a nice gap in between our jawline and our contour, brighten it all up and make sure also that it's not sliding anywhere. So if you feel like you've made a mistake or you feel like your contour's too low or it's too close to your jawline, this is what's going to correct it. And it doesn't need to stay on for long. I literally keep it on for about 30 seconds and then wipe it off with a fluffy brush and make sure that everything's all blended in. It can also help blend your products in because it's sitting over the top of it. I've also just taken a little bit of MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the colour Dark Deep, and I'm just running that along the same areas that we've contoured. This is just because it's a really kind of soft baked bronzer, and again it's just going to give us that little bit of warmth. I'm now going to take that same cayenne colour that we used before on a pencil brush and just run it underneath the bottom lash line. I tend not to do anything too dark or harsh under there, but really make sure that you're running it along and really blending it. I'm going to take some of the same black that we used before on the same angled brush, and I'm just going to push that right into the lower lash line close to the waterline, and then taking the same pencil brush again, I'm going to blend it all through, and this is just going to give us a little bit of definition towards and a bit of darkness towards the eyes. You may want to leave just a warm colour under the lower lash line, which would make a great day look, but usually if I'm going anywhere I do like to make the eyes quite dark. I'm then going to go in with my favourite bottom lash mascara. That's the Rimmel Lash Accelerator. It's the best one I've found really that doesn't transfer. I don't need to put any mascara on my top lashes because I already have the individual lashes, and you're not meant to put any mascara on them. Next I'm going to take this blush, and this is MAC Melba, and I'm just going to take a small fluffy brush and just literally place it on the apples of my cheeks. I always find if you do the classic trick of smiling first, you can really see where they need to go, and just to make sure there's no choppy lines or any harshness, I'm just going to take a fluffy brush and run that through. I'm now using the iconic illuminator drops, and I'm just putting 3 dots on either side of my cheekbones and a little bit on my nose, and I'm actually going to rub this in using my fingers and the beauty blender, just because I find that this is the best way of blending it in. This looks amazing on its own, but because I like a really strong highlight, I am going to put a powder highlight over the top. Next I'm going to go in with my favourite lip liner, and this is MAC Stripdown. This is a very kind of neutral brown lip liner, which I tend to only go for neutral lips anyway. I also overdraw my lips, which some people would like, some people wouldn't. I tend to get rid of my Cupid's bow, but that's just my preference. I'm also using MAC Fleshpot lipstick and Anastasia Beverly Hills Rose Gold Gloss in Gilded. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you like the look, and if you do recreate it, please tag me in it. Thank you.